Lisa Brennan.
And I'm Justin Trice. Welcome to Crime of the Arts,
a true crime podcast that peeks behind the curtain to shine a light on the dark and untold truths of the creative arts.
From film set mysteries to celebrity murders and art heist, these two theater nerds will usher you into the unknown.
This week, I'm going to tell you the story that I like to call Can't Map Talk Your Way Out of This One, Jerry Harris.
Whoa. I don't know what any of that was, but I know I'm going to be entertained. And as for me, I'm just going to tell you about, once upon a time, I guess you could say she might have been America's sweetheart. Maybe you know her now as a very eccentric sweetheart. Winona Ryder. I'm going to discuss something about her. You guys are probably like, what can you possibly discuss about her? Oh, I'll find some shit.
So when the pandemic started, we were all locked in our houses and there were so many things and so many hours to fill that we just binge watched everything imaginable on Netflix, Hulu, and HBO, right?
This is true. We binge watched. Animal Crossing was a thing. Some people wanted to learn languages. Tiger King became a cultural fucking icon. Yes.
And I wonder if this one hit your house. Did you watch the Cheer docuseries on Netflix?
I did not. I kept saying I was going to get around to that, but then I just started watching everything else.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a little backstory on what this documentary was. I feel like you need it in order to hear the rest of the story. So Cheer was a documentary series that was available to binge at the height of the pandemic. And I was totally sucked in. From go, I was in on this documentary. It's like Bring It On, but in real life. You had all the drama, the athleticism.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And the performance, that theatrical feeling you get from professional cheerleading. It's everything that you can ask for.
And this was a reality show or a documentary, you said?
So it's both.
Okay.
They call it a docuseries. There's 6 episodes in the first season. There is a second season, and there is a third season in the works right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It takes place in a little town called Corsicana, Texas. And Netflix description reads, quote, "This gripping docuseries follows the ups and downs of Navarro College's competitive cheer squad as they work to win a coveted national title." So the whole premise behind the show is you're watching these 30-something teenagers rehearse and put their bodies on the line to create this performance. And this pivotal moment is their live moment at this national competition in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Okay, that's actually really cool. So you're seeing all of the dedication and like the sacrifice and stuff going into it.
The sacrifice, and it's cool to see like the team support, but then like they're really only battling against themselves as a team whole, as individuals in being the best athlete that they could be. So practicing, and then so I'll get into the logistics of the way the team works in the competition. So there are moments in Cheer where it's not exactly clear if the footage is being shown as moving forward or in reverse. Like it's the most insane acrobatics you have ever seen. It's a testament to the Navarro cheerleading team. Their members are super talented and disciplined enough that the watch-like movements find members flying through the air in ways that just don't even seem possible.
Damn, okay.
You should watch this documentary. So whether you're watching that kind of acrobatic skill, it's a revelation or it's a commonplace, there's enough in Cheer to keep you engaged in a number of different ways. The series comes from director Greg Whitley and the team behind Last Chance U. Have you ever seen that on Netflix?
I've seen it on there. I mean, I haven't watched it, but I've seen the trailer of it, yeah.
So what Last Chance U focuses on is junior college football programs and how they work as a team to make it to, every game and to try and make it to some kind of national level. This takes a shift and puts their focus on the world of cheerleading at a junior collegiate level. The show is shot in a very interesting way. You're sitting there, you're speaking to team members in their dorm rooms and coaches in their offices. And there's this feeling of capturing a natural environment rather than setting up a world that's been depicted.
Right.
Essentially, they're making the viewer feel like they're being embedded within the team. Like you really are rooting for them the whole way through. So at Navarro College, there's approximately 38 cheerleaders on the team. And this is like a nationally renowned team.
Okay.
People come from all over the United States to be on this community college cheerleading team.
Are you serious?
I am not kidding. Yeah, I am so serious. And most of it has to do with their reputation, their required athleticism, and their coach. So out of 38 cheerleaders that are put on the team, only 20 of them get to be on mat. So on mat means you're actually going to compete. There are 18 other people who are standing on the sidelines. So you work all year to hope that you get good enough to make it on mat. Or someone gets injured and they need alternates.
I swear I have not seen this show, but in my head, I'm already making up like a trailer as you speak. It's like Jenna has been training her whole life to do what she's done. And now she is the varsity cheerleader. And I'm sitting back here. I've always been by her side and I deserve to be her number 2 co-cheer captain. I will do what I have to get on there.
You've seen Bring It On. I mean... Obviously. So, however, the docuseries does hyper-focus on a handful of team members.
Okay.
And those team members include cheerleaders and coaches. Okay. So you go through this whole entire 7 hours or whatever it is watching the show. And each episode sort of focuses in on one kid. The coach is pretty consistent throughout the whole thing. And she's kind of like Mama Bear who fixes all these broken children, honestly.
Okay.
And then, you're seeing the teamwork as a whole in every episode. So first we have Monica Aldama, who served as a cheerleading coach at Navarro College for over 24 years. I can't even believe that because she doesn't look that old. She looks fabulous for her age, if that's true. She has played a pivotal role in revitalizing the sport by creating some of the best cheerleaders throughout her career. Under her guidance, Navarro College has led the highest score in National Cheerleading Association College Nationals history. She has won 14 times, 14 national championships.
14?
Yes.
Damn.
And they get big, fat, like Super Bowl rings every time. And she's got them like all over.
She's got some on her toes at this point.
She's got them doubled up.
Oh, my gosh.
So Monica's work ethics and dedication for the sport have earned her a reputation, which brings these students into Navarro. And it extends beyond the limits of cheerleading. They refer to her as the GOAT. And she's the mama bear who gives tough love and helps guide some of these kids who would have been absolutely lost in their lives without cheerleading and its structured lifestyle. And then you meet team members, actual cheerleaders. They all attend Navarro College, and I say attend in huge air quotes because it's a community college, and these kids are there for many, many years. Does that sound familiar, Justin?
Oh, it sounds slightly familiar. Yeah. Uh-huh. I wonder why.
I wonder why. We went to a community college that had a similar situation. So you have Gabby Butler. She is a force to be reckoned with in this cheer community. And she's become kind of cheer famous from an early age. Her popular stretching, tumbling, and training videos have been on YouTube since she was a child. And it's documented her life traveling the country, competing, and winning since she was very young. And throughout the series, Gabby juggles cheering for Navarro, studying at Navarro, modeling, and her cheer-lebrity status.
Oh my goodness. Also, this is just making me feel ultra old. It's like since she was a child, it was on YouTube. I'm like, YouTube just started when I was in college, girl. Like,
but really, she's like a real fucking powerhouse, this kid. She's the center of the universe.
Okay.
So then there's Morgan. The small town girl who lives with her grandparents on a farm in the middle of fucking absolutely nowhere.
Oh my goodness.
Who we find out has a very complicated relationship with her father, and that's why she lives with her grandparents. And for most of the documentary series, she's an underdog top girl, which means she goes up in the stunts, and flyer, which means she gets thrown at Navarro College. When another top girl's injury rocks the team, and I mean rocks, you watch in rehearsals, this girl falls from the fucking sky during a stunt and breaks bones. I mean, it's devastating.
Oh.
So Morgan has to step in and learn that pyramid sequence and deal with the intense pain of having bruised ribs from baskets, which is where they throw you up and then they all catch you. And all you're doing is smacking your ribs onto the forearms of the people catching you.
Yeah, no, that's brutal. That's brutal.
And then nailing her stunts and tumbling. So imagine having to take this is kind of like that thing with the stunt double in The Wizard of Oz where you're like, oh, I only get to go do this because somebody else almost died. Same shit. Same shit where you're like, oh, she broke all these bones. Great. Let me go do that. Then there's Lexi Brumback. She's one of the breakout stars in cheer. And many viewers immediately became drawn to her because her story is really relatable and not always very cheery. Like, she's not a cheery person. I feel like she would be a goth kid in a different lifetime.
She was just forced into this cheer life. The cheer life chose her. She didn't choose the cheer life.
She sure did not. So unlike her cheer peers, which is hilarious, Lexi is mostly just a tumbler, but she's fucking nuts. And she's also got a little bit of that bad girl vibe where she's like smoking pot at like a music festival, you know.
Okay.
And she confesses to the camera that she's a bit of a wild child and had spent time in prison. She'd been to jail for fighting, for assaulting someone. But thanks to the guidance of her family and Navarro alumnus who saw her tumbling potential, she was introduced to Monica Aldama, and she started channeling her aggressive energy into tumbling. And throughout the series, we watch Lexi struggle to connect with the people around her, pass her classes, but ultimately she does really well on the mat.
Okay.
She does, however, I know they didn't talk about it in the articles I was reading, but she does like leave the team at some point at the end and doesn't come back the following year. And she gets in a lot of trouble, like real life trouble, and ends up going back to Navarro because it's the only way to keep her on a straight and narrow.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah. So this team is like, outside of it just being like this cheer environment, they're really helping these children like a community center would in an environment where they could really find themselves in trouble. We meet Ladarius Marshall, and man, is he my favorite.
Oh,
he's one of the first characters we meet, and he's described as like one of the over-the-top athletes. And he does get vulnerable during this docuseries, like most of them do. Like each episode, you're focusing in on one kid's story. You go back home with them and you hear their life story growing up, and his past and upbringing was brought up in the series. And he talked about how his sexuality led to violent bullying when he was growing up in a foster home.
Oh, damn.
But he's a powerhouse when it comes to cheering. He's hilarious. Have you ever seen the video of it's a guy dancing the cha-cha slide, but he's like super extra? Have you ever seen that video? That could be this guy. Everything he does is like face, and he's got so much sass. He's just fucking hilarious. To say this show shot these people into the limelight would be an understatement. Their lives changed overnight, and the whole world was locked in their houses, binge watching everything, and the timing couldn't have been better to release the series. The cast was invited on every morning talk and radio show, late night TV. They got product endorsements from Cheerios and Walmart, and the show itself won 3 Emmys.
Oh, okay.
All right. But when you become that famous overnight, all of your skeletons come tumbling out of your closet.
Of course, because everybody wants to get to know you, and you got super fans. They're going to dig for shit. They're going to find shit.
So now that you have a gist of what the show is really about, I want to introduce you the focus of my story. His name is Jerry Harris. He's another cheerleader who became famous for his bubbly personality and his unending support of his teammates. He's known for his eccentric and over-the-top mat talk, which is a cheerleading term in which he yells and cheers on the other people who are on mat. So truly, he's the most lovable reality TV star I have ever seen. I watch all of the reality TV shows, Justin.
Really?
All of
Okay.
them. Everything but the Kardashians. That's where I draw the line. But seriously, he is this sweet, bubbly kid. He's joyous and happy. He lights up every room he walks into. I mean, honestly, the things I'm about to tell you about him seems so uncharacteristic to the person that we all saw in this documentary. And I can't tell if we were all duped or if this is just really, really sad for everyone. During the show, we learned that he was born July 14th, 1999 in Hinesdale, Illinois, and was raised in Bolingbrook, Illinois. When he was 16 years old, his mother passed away from lung cancer. Oh. And he was an only child, and he only had his mom. So while he was still in high school, she passed away, and he was taken in by a friend's family. This was another cheerleading friend's mother took him in.
Okay.
And they took care of him, and that family kind of became his family, his support system. They really loved him. And you meet this family in the documentary series. I think the mothers were friends.
Okay.
And she really, really cares for him. In January 2020, the whole team appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show. And they were like Matt talking other celebrities, like some of the Kardashian Jenners were on there or whatever.
What the fuck? Okay, all right.
Yeah, so it was like, I mean, everybody watched this show. February 2020, Ellen DeGeneres announced that Jerry Harris was going to be her show's Oscar correspondent. He did it. He was in a tux on the red carpet talking to celebrities as they were walking down for the Oscars.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Man.
And he did really good. Even all the celebrities knew exactly who he was. They were coming over like, oh, and he's nobody, you know, compared to them. I mean, I really think he had the potential to have like a freaking daytime talk show. That is the trajectory he was on. He was literally everyone's favorite. But the fall from grace is a bitch.
Oh, no.
So on September 14th, 2020, a Texas lawsuit was filed against Harris by a mother of two 14-year-old twin boys who alleged that the older cheerleader asked them for nude photos, solicited sex, and sent them sexually explicit messages.
Oh.
Fuck. Accusations in this suit include sexual harassment, exploitation, abuse, and molestation. Charlie Klein claims he was only 13 when a 19-year-old Jerry Harris sent him a direct message on Instagram asking his age and wondering if he would send him nudes. Charlie says he felt pressured to send the pictures because he looked up to Jerry as a male cheerleader. From there, Charlie claims he continued communicating with Harris until they met at a cheer competition where Harris allegedly assaulted him. And that alleged story is that they had sex in a bathroom at a cheer competition.
Wow.
Sam Klein is the twin brother from Charlie, and he claims Harris started contacting him after allegedly assaulting his twin. And their mom, Sarah Klein, says she started looking into their relationship. She knew that her boys were friends with him somehow, but she didn't really understand to the extent that all of this was happening.
Exactly.
And after finding some of their communications, she was disturbed, obviously. They showed, I mean, I can actually see them, of the phone, screenshots of the Snapchat conversations. And one of the pictures is of one of the young boys doing like a cheer stance with his leg up behind his head, like straight up in the air. And Harris responded with, quote, "Do that again, but naked and in a video."
Whoa. That is skeevy as fuck.
As fuck. We went through season 1 loving Jerry Harris. And then he's way up here. And then he comes crashing down to earth. And season 2 of Cheer comes up. And you have some of the same characters in season 2 that were in 1. And had all of this not happened, Jerry Harris would have been one of them.
Mm.
And what I liked about season 2 is that it didn't shy away or like ignore the fact that this happened. And what's really interesting is the dichotomy between the lives of these individuals from season 1 to season 2. So season 1, you come in and nobody knows them, right? And they're all working really hard. You end season 1, spoiler, they win nationals in season 1, right? And they come out on this high. And then you come into season 2, and these are the saddest people because their whole world is just working, doing these endorsements. They've made all this money, but none of it's fucking worth the energy. Monica Aldama actually was on Dancing with the Stars.
Really? So, I stopped watching that a long time ago, but that's crazy.
Yep. They asked her to come and be on Dancing with the Stars. And then all this stuff happened with Jerry and everyone just loved him. You could see he emulated so much joy that it was impossible not to love him. And you got Monica, who's like Mama Bear, right? And she's crushed. She's crushed by this. She's like, how did I not know this was happening? How could I not protect him from this? Because there's no one else in the world to protect him. And how is this happening to our kids?
Exactly.
You know, outside of him, we need to protect our kids in this cheer world that we're creating, this bubble. And in season 2, they actually interview these two boys and their mother. And they're in season 2. There's an entire episode in season 2 about this scandal.
Jerry Harris is not in season 2 at all, but the victims are. Oh, that's crazy.
You can't ignore how Jerry Harris affects their everyday lives in the episodes, correct, but he himself is not in it. The storyline exists already.
Okay.
But no, he is not in season 2. So they interview the boys. Their names are Sam and Charlie. Their mother's name is Sarah. And they show you text messages that she found. And she says that she went through all of these apps and whatever, and she read everything. And it was like fucking crazy things that he was saying. You see a text from Harris and says, I found a place that we can go to do stuff, quote unquote, at an upcoming cheerleading competition. And he would send nude photos of himself and ask if they want to star, which I'm assuming means fuck.
Yeah.
It's just really, really bad. It was just bad. And it's just so disturbing to me. So outside of like this cheer college, there's something that exists called All-Star Cheerleading. It's a national competition that's outside of any schooling. This is like private cheer competitions and teams. And it's the same kind of a thing where each group has a class and you compete against people that are in similar classes to you. Does that make sense?
I feel like I've seen part of this on ESPN or something.
You 100% have.
Okay, just make sure.
So all-star cheerleading environment allows you to have late teen, early 20-year-old adults on the same teams as 13 and 14-year-old children. And essentially you have these adults who started as 13 and 14-year-olds continuing this path. And it essentially blurs the lines. And for the immature adults in the group, they're seeing these children as their peers, but they still have these adult urges. And clearly these kids are very much still children. And these adults are very much still adults. According to the criminal complaint, Jerry Harris allegedly confessed soliciting and receiving sexual Snapchat messages from known minors, as well as having oral and anal sex with a 15-year-old.
Crazy.
He said, yes, I did that.
No, what he did was pretty despicable because he also used his fame as persuasion. And that's a whole other thing. But
we'll get into that.
I'm glad he confessed, though.
So all-star cheerleading, we're told about these actions 4 months before they suspended Jerry Harris. After the allegations were brought to their attention, he was still allowed in the gyms with these children for 4 months. And there's actually a list of people who were banned, quote unquote, from participating in cheerleading for similar reasons to Jerry Harris. But before his exposure, there was only 21 people on that list. Now there's over 200.
Goodness.
74 of which are and have been registered sex offenders. So 74 fucking people have been registered sex offenders and have been allowed in these gyms with these children. I feel like I have a theme going on here, but I don't really mean to. But how are we allowing the children of our first world country to be so unprotected? Every story I've done with children, they have been preyed upon by adults.
They have been preyed upon 100%.
Well, and these situations have been completely avoidable had someone done the right fucking thing from the jump. And it's truly infuriating. And maybe that's why I keep doing them, because these stories have to be told in order for there to be action to be taken.
Well, I have so many questions myself because it's Netflix. Like, how did they not do background checks or look into any of this? I guess the same could be said about Tiger King.
Well, it doesn't. Yeah. The thing is, Justin, it doesn't matter, right? It's that whole concept of whatever sells, like they do. I was just listening to a documentary the other day about Bravo and the way that they do their reality TV star casting. And, they'll sit down and ask, is there anything that we need to know about? And they're all like, no, Real Housewives, no. And then you see all these Real Housewives, being fucking indicted on fraud and who's stealing money with their husband or whatever. And it doesn't behoove them to do the research because all it is more publicity for their show.
True.
Same thing with Cheer. There's still a second season and a third season coming that they're filming now or whatever. So in the wake of the initial allegations against Jerry Harris, Varsity Brands, the company behind major cheer competitions such as the National Cheerleading Association National Championship in Daytona, Florida, stated that it would continue to cooperate with authorities' inquiries on this matter. So it had also reported the allegations to the police in Florida and in Texas in August of 2020. And a Varsity spokesperson added in the statement that Harris, a former employee, had been barred from having any affiliations with Varsity Brands or any of its subsidiaries or affiliates. So, just days after the lawsuit was filed, on September 7th, Jerry Harris was arrested on a charge of producing child pornography following an FBI search of his Naperville, Illinois home.
What did they find there?
Well, you're about to find out.
Oh, no.
After being denied bail by a federal judge in October 2020, Harris was indicted on additional charges in December, each involving alleged incidents with 4 minors between August 2017 and August 2020. And just for perspective, he was 18 years old in 2017. So the new charges included 4 counts of sexual exploitation of children, 1 count of enticement, and 1 count of traveling with the attempt to engage in sexual conduct with a minor. The latter stems from an accusation that Jerry took a trip to Florida for an intentional sexual encounter with a 15-year-old. And on Wednesday, July 6th, 2022, last fucking week, a judge in Chicago sentenced Jerry Harris to 12 years in prison on guilty pleas that he took for 2 of the 7 federal charges. Harris had reached a plea deal in February in which prosecutors agreed that after sentencing on the first 2 counts, the charges that he persuaded a 17-year-old to send him sexually explicit photos for money and traveled to Florida for the purpose of engaging in an illicit sexual conduct with a 15-year-old, they would ask that the remaining charges be dropped. So he got 12 years on 2 charges.
Oh, my goodness.
He had initially pled not guilty to all 7 charges last December, and his attorneys had argued for a 6-year prison term. In court documents, they cited Harris's difficult childhood and that said that he had a warped view of relationships because he himself was sexually assaulted at 13 by a 19-year-old in a cheer gym.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that kind of puts things in perspective, not justifying, but I'm just saying.
Sure. I totally agree.
Vicious cycle happening here. Yeah.
Hurt people. You know? Yeah. The lawyers submitted character reference letters and videos from more than 80 people, including Navarro College cheerleading coach Monica Aldama and other cheer castmates and members of the broader cheerleading community. Assistant U.S. Attorney Kelly Guzman had asked for a 15-year sentence, and in court documents, she acknowledges Harris's traumatic upbringing and said that it's not a blank check to commit sex offenses against minors. Which, fair. She says Harris used his celebrity and wealth to continue his exploitation of children, expanding the tools available to him to manipulate them into gratifying his seemingly insatiable sexual desires. Yikes. Oh. In court, Jerry Harris made a statement, and he was very remorseful, saying he knows what he did was wrong, and that he knows he doesn't deserve forgiveness, but he hopes someday they'll find it in their hearts to forgive him. And I really hate when people say that.
I hate that too, because here's my gripe with all of that. If he didn't end up on this hit Netflix show, the spotlight wouldn't be on him. People wouldn't have dig to have found this. Would he still be doing it?
Yep.
Do you think he'd still be doing it? I think he would.
I do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that I didn't talk about in here, in the show, he kept talking about how he wanted to go to University of Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
And he ended up getting a scholarship to go there. And he went for like a semester and ended up going back to Navarro. But sometime in between that, a GoFundMe page was started for him. And people were just flooding him with money. So outside of the money that he got from his time on cheer, he got a $10,000 scholarship to Kentucky University or whatever it is. And then he's getting all this cash on GoFundMe. I mean, it's mind blowing. He either really had us all fucking duped or what I think. And I know this, I could totally get hate for all of this. But I struggle with this a little bit because, I mean, I feel bad for every person involved, including Jerry Harris, which like feels really wrong for me because he's this predator.
Right.
But I feel like the same system that failed Jerry Harris is the same one that allowed him to be a predator.
100% on that. Yeah, I agree with that because, again, it seems to be never any enforcement, especially with the cheer community. This has clearly been a systemic issue
for sure.
Within that cheerocracy or however you want to call this system. I had to pull out a Bring It Out reference.
Cheerocracy.
Yeah, I had to pull out a Bring It On reference. All jokes aside, but yeah, that's the thing. I mean, this has clearly been an ongoing thing where other cheerleaders have been taking advantage of younger people, and it's been.
This is not like a centralized issue. This is something that happened to him. The age difference is exactly the same, 13 and 19, right? When he started this, and he had no one to protect him after his mother died, right? So it's a really vicious cycle. It makes me sad because he's really just like a big 15-year-old. Like he is immature. He's had weird life experiences.
Right.
And he hasn't had a lot of adults kind of be his peers. He's had children be his peers. And I feel like, again, this is that system that kind of blurs the lines. And it's really sad.
Does he have like a chance for parole, or he has to serve that whole thing? Or
so he got 12 years sentenced in jail with 8 years of probation after he's released. Supervised probation. Yeah. And that environment of children and adults being peers, you're just allowing the problem to continue to perpetuate itself. I really hope that the All-Star Federation chooses to make a change. They haven't so far. And because he had been on that team since he was a child and there's no aging out of the process, he still acted like a child.
Exactly.
And then add his newfound fame and money. And now every kid wants to be his friend, right? He is the poster for like a successful gay man in the cheerleading environment. And it's just very sad. And it's very gross. Fix the fucking problems.
Yeah, fix the problems. Don't sweep it under the mat.
Yeah, fix the broken systems already. Protect all of our children and stop perpetuating the cycle. Listen, there's people in the world who have horrible things happen to them and they don't continue to make that environment in their future. That's not the case here, but that's definitely part of his story. So yeah, that's the Jerry Harris story. Can't Matt talk your way out of this one, Jerry Harris.
Okay. Now it makes sense. But I don't know. You had like a Southern accent last time too. I'm like, where the fuck is this going?
Oh, the story hurts my heart for all the people.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to, I don't know if I'm going to start watching that now, only because I'm going to now have to see his face, but I'm going to have to keep an eye at least on his situation and if they're going to start to reform or what's happening here. Yeah.
So what you got for us, Winona Ryder?
Winona. Yeah, so I got Winona Ryder. Before I get into what we're gonna cover with her, we're gonna talk about who she is for those who aren't familiar by the name, because again, we're getting older and it's this weird demographic of people that born in 2000 or 2001. So they definitely don't know who the hell she is.
Well,
at this point.
And then the truth is they all know exactly who she is. They just don't know what her name is.
Exactly. They just don't know who her name is. You're 100% correct on that. But yeah, Winona Ryder, she is a famous actor within Hollywood. She had started acting back in the 80s and she rose to fame throughout the 90s before what we're going to get into happens. She was first noticed in Hollywood or the entertainment industry for her early role as Lydia Dietz in the film Beetlejuice.
Woohoo!
Classic.
One of my favorites.
It is one of my favorite Tim Burton films for sure. And, you know, they keep talking about a sequel. We'll see if that happens.
Shake, Sonora. That's one of my favorite scenes.
But yeah, that was done back in 88 before she established herself like as a full blown actress.
88?
Yeah, that's why I was like, I got to give a recap because.
Damn, I didn't realize that movie was so old.
It was back in the day.
It's as old as us.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit older than it. Oh my God.
Yeah, so am I, but shut up.
From there, she was able to land more prominent roles in a variety of different movies throughout the late 80s and 90s, such as Heathers, Edward Scissorhands.
Heathers. Oh my God, these are amazing movies. Edward Scissorhands.
Yes, Edward Scissorhands, which is a classic. It's like one of my girl's favorite movies as well. Little Women, I think that was like the 1992 version with Christian Bale. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
My brain is exploding, Justin. Like all my childhood movies right now.
Yeah, and then she was also in The Age of Innocence, which was another really solid one. She won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress on that. And, she ended up having to go into like a brief hiatus later on during her career shortly after the incident we're going to start to discuss.
Hiatus isn't even the word. It's like she stuck her head in the sand and nobody even knew she was alive anymore.
Yeah, she stuck her head in the sand. She disappeared for a while. And then in 2006, she reemerged with her most recent well-known performance, which is Joyce Byers in Stranger Things. So
there she is. Joyce
Lisa
Byers in Stranger Things is Winona Ryder. Everyone.
She's like, some of you youngsters are going to be like, oh, that lady, I know. Yeah. Let's take a closer look at things transpiring before this specific incident happened. So Winona Ryder is actually born as Winona Laura Horowitz.
I see why she changed her name.
Correct. And also, in most of her films, she has dark hair, but she is a natural blonde. Edward Scissorhands, that was her real hair.
Wow.
Yeah. We talked about Amazing Spider-Man in previous podcasts. It's like Emma Stone, she's always showing red hair, but she was blonde in that movie. Blonde's her natural hair color.
Right. And
it's crazy.
Great on her.
Yeah, it's crazy how you could change your hair color and it defines your career, defines your whole look.
Yeah.
But yeah, Winona, born as Winona back in 1971 in a town called Winona, Minnesota, to be exact.
Minnesota.
So that explains her slight accent too. I could never figure out what it was. But yeah, her parents ended up naming her after that. So she grew up in that town for like the first 10 years of her life before her family moved.
Can I just say for a second how annoying it must be to be named after the town you live in? Like, imagine I had a kid and I named him Nash in Nashville. Right? You can't do that.
That is one of my pet peeves when people name kids after the towns they were born in or conceived in.
I wouldn't even name my dog Nash at this point because I live in Nashville, especially.
She says that now, folks. We'll find out. If she has any other kids later on or a dog, what's the name? Nash.
I'll do it despite myself.
But yeah, she moved over to Petaluma, California in the early 80s. And it was during her time there that she first started showing interest in acting when she decided to enroll in the American Conservatory Theater, which for those of you that don't know, it's a very well-known conservatory. We've got that going on in Cali. We have it in New York as well. Still going strong.
But she's super talented. I mean,
to get into that. And the thing is, she got in very young. Like she started receiving acting lessons from there when she was 12 years old.
Wow.
Picture that. Like, again, she was just like a natural raw talent. And she was very vocal with her family. Like, I want to get into acting. And they helped nurse that. And she got into that conservatory from there, started taking root.
Wow.
Although she was able to get her first taste of performance arts during this period of her life, she also experienced many traumatic events that continued to plague her mental health as she got more established in her career.
Go figure.
Yeah. And this next one's going to hit home, especially if you know her body of work. We mentioned this movie, Heathers. It's all going to kind of come together now. No. It was said that during her first week of junior high, that her classmates viciously bullied her because she looks like an effeminate boy. She did kind of look that way. There's no reason to pick on her, though. The same year she joined the American Conservatory Theater, she had a near-death experience when she almost drowned at a beach close to where she lived. Even though she survived, that event caused her to develop lifelong aquaphobia, and it made it difficult for her to shoot scenes that involved being in or around large bodies of water, such as when she was filming in a very infamous underwater scene within Alien Resurrection back in 1997.
He was in Alien Resurrection?
She was one of the main characters.
Hold on a second.
So the whole time she was with the crew, and then she got shot by someone that betrayed them, fell into the water. The aliens didn't get her. And then magically she ends up above them, opening the door. You find out that she was like this very lifelike robot that most of her robot species was extinct.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, she was like co-star with that.
Oh my God. This is again one of those scenarios where you're like, you don't connect it.
Yeah. But there's that whole crazy scene of the place is flooding and all of that. And she had to, yes. Oh my God. She had to jump in there and be on the water. It created a whole thing. Like it took them a lot of takes.
I mean, she is chest deep in water.
Yeah.
In this image. Wow.
That explains, her issues with filming Alien Resurrection. And then going backwards, she continued to be bullied throughout high school, and even after she was able to find early success in her performance in Beetlejuice and was called a witch by her classmates. like you fucking just starred in Beetlejuice, which is like this cult classic. The whole world saw it and was mesmerized. And you go back to class and they're just like
little assholes.
It's Winona. It's the witch. Don't get Beetlejuice on me. Like that's wow.
It's horrible. So, and I feel like that's why kids are, schooled on set and stuff instead of in a public environment.
Exactly.
Little kids can be evil. I was bullied real bad in high school. So I get it.
But still, like kids can be so fucking cruel. So yeah, they called her a witch despite her graduating from high school with a 4.0 GPA. And kudos to her for like being able to still go back into school because like you said, most people are homeschooled or schooled on set during this time. She's like, I'm going to just keep doing my thing. So
yeah.
But yeah, once she was able to graduate high school, her whole acting career really started to take off, and she was able to land more consistent work in both large budget and independent films. I mean, back in the 90s, she literally starred in 3 separate leading roles. Like there was Mermaids. I mean, she had Mermaids. She had Welcome Home. She had Roxy Carmichael. And of course, Edward Scissorhands, where she starred as the female lead with her boyfriend at the time, Johnny Depp, people. Yes, back in the day, she dated Johnny Depp. During this time, she was also supposed to appear in The Godfather Part 3 as Mary Corleone, but ended up having to pull out because of the project because she had been experiencing nervous exhaustion when they started filming the movie in 1990.
Wow.
She has a lot of going on and anxiety and all these other things. And the moment you say Godfather, I mean, Francis Ford Coppola, all of his films will take a toll on you. So I give her props for being able to be like, I'm going to step out now.
And honestly, she didn't need the Godfather movie franchise. She had plenty of her own.
Yeah, she had plenty of her own. And Part 3 was just a train wreck anyway. So, but yeah, so she backed out of that. As the decade progressed, she was able to establish herself as a household name in the entertainment industry through her performances, and even received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in October of 2001, just a year before the incident that we're going to talk about occurs.
The incident.
And I'm just curious, by the time we get to this incident, I'm wondering if people are going to be like, that's it. That for those listening, when you get to this episode, please, for any episode in general, we love feedback. Definitely send us feedback, whether it's through our website, our email, our social media. Get at us. Let us know how you feel about some of these crimes, or let us know your suggestion for other things. Please, we're here for it.
100%. And we're super responsive.
Yeah, we're super responsive. Yeah, we got you. We got you. Around the time of her incident we're going to get into, Winona had been going through her fair share of issues during what she claimed to be a rough phase in her life. In the years leading up to the stuff, she was dealing with clinical depression, and she was prescribed heavy painkillers that clouded her judgment over time. The doctor that prescribed her those painkillers, Jules Mark Lesman, also prescribed drugs to Courtney Love and actually ended up having his license revoked by the Medical Board of California before he was unethically prescribing medications to celebrities in Hollywood that were similar to the type of drugs that they would typically purchase off the black market.
Oh, shit.
Let that sink in, folks.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, Courtney Love is a fucking disaster.
Yeah, she's literally a walking disaster.
Literally, if you look at the both of them, they're very similar, and it must come down to whatever fucking drugs he was giving them.
Whatever drugs they're taking. Again, clearly, like, Winona Ryder was naturally just a brilliant person, even at a young age. But it's weird because once I learned about this and I started looking into it too, you can literally see the shift through the 90s, the progression of she just became like a walking spaced out skeleton. Yeah. Yeah. So he's responsible for all of that. Outside of just the painkillers, though, that she was prescribed, Ryder was also accused of using diazepam, oxycodone, and Vicodin without a valid prescription during the time of her potential incident.
That makes sense. So, that's exactly the drugs that would make you act like a nut job. Yes. I mean, they're all downers, right? Diazepam, Vicodin, and what was the other one? Hydrocodone. Hydrocodone is like a highly addictive pill. Very addictive. And it kills people. Hydrocodone kills people. Jack Osbourne, he almost had a drug overdose.
Yeah, he had almost OD'd.
Crazy.
She had a lot going on. And already, again, growing up, she had her stuff. In the night of December 12th, 2001, Winona Ryder was arrested at a Saks Fifth Avenue store in Beverly Hills. She was accused of stealing around $5,500 worth of designer clothes from the department store, which was confirmed by the camera footage that they found of her at the store, showing her using scissors. She brought her own scissors to cut off the security tags off of various articles of clothing. I'm going to give Lisa a minute here.
She brought her own scissors?
Scissors. The footage is there. I'm sure now you guys can look at it still throughout YouTube.
I remember when this happened in 2001.
I vaguely remember. I just didn't know the extent of it. I just remember, she stole something, but I didn't realize it was going down like this or like how she was doing the shit.
Dude,
so
I don't remember the scissors. I thought that this was like a compulsive thing that she did, but this seems very premeditated when you're bringing your own scissors to the store.
Well, I thought it was also kind of a compulsive thing, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. She
I thought she just lost her mind and she cracked and like, it was like, I want this and this and this, and I'm going to shove it in my bag and I'm going to leave. But really she was like, everything was kind of maniacal. She's actually cutting tags off stuff. And
I was under the impression that like maybe she just took one or two things. And I'm like, maybe it's a cry for help. But no, $5,500 worth of stuff, folks. I had just started to tell you, she started using the scissors to cut the security tags off of various articles of clothing, hair accessories. And she took a handbag. It was a handbag that she later put into a Saks bag filled with items that she had purchased earlier in the day while shopping. So she was held at the security offices within the store after she was caught.
Oh my God.
Where she had to sign 2 civil demands from them to pay for the stolen items before she was taken into custody by the Beverly Hills Police Department.
Could you imagine that loss prevention team sitting in their, whatever their little office is with all the monitors looking at everything, and they're like, is that fucking Winona Ryder? Is she stealing stuff? Let's just watch her and see how far she actually goes. And they'll just let you hang yourself. They're watching you fucking steal stuff for hours if you're in there that long.
Well, what if they didn't even recognize her? Because I feel like when I looked at that video too, I'm like, I might have had a hard time recognizing her. Suppose they finally let her steal everything and they were like, come with us. And then one of them's like, she looks like that thing that was in Alien Resurrection or something, whatever. You think that's Winona Ryder? That can't be. And then she's just probably like very meekly like, I am Winona Ryder. Like,
crazy. It's so crazy.
So she had to sign that stuff to agree that she'd pay for the stolen items.
And to think that like $5,500 is like nothing for her, probably.
Still, when they arrested her, they also found an unmarked bottle of pills in her possession that she had without a proper prescription, which some sources claim to be Zoloft. So another thing to bring her down,
But not really. Zoloft is not a controlled substance. Zoloft is like a mood stabilizer.
I feel like I'm going to have to look into that. It is a mood stabilizer, but in conjunction with anything else that she might have been taking, though. And we don't know how much of Zoloft she was taking. She might have been abusing the prescription, too. They ended up arresting her on shoplifting and vandalism, burglary, grand theft charges, along with possession of prescription drugs without valid prescription before she was released on $20,000 bond. When her trial was concluded the following year in 2002, she was convicted on all charges except for burglary and was sentenced to 3 years of probation, as well as 480 hours of community service.
Damn.
Yeah, $3,700 in court fines, $6,355 in restitution to Saks Fifth. In addition to all of that, she was ordered to attend drug and psychological counseling as part of her punishment as well. After the court revisited her probation report in 2004, they decided to reduce her felonies to misdemeanors after she completed her 480 hours of community service and lifted her probation in December of 2005. And I remember vaguely like seeing a trial on this, seeing all these things. And again, I was younger. I guess I wasn't paying attention at the time. I truly didn't realize there was prescriptions involved, all these other things, but also that she was stealing that much. And again, you came in, you were cutting shit off you get slightly premeditated. I
mean, unless you just have a Mary Poppins bag and you carry scissors around with you all the time.
Well, that too. You could have that. I mean, I can't speak for you. Girls carry a lot of stuff in bags.
Yeah, I've never put a pair of scissors in my bag.
Never? No scissors? Yeah.
Not to like just have. No.
So
yeah, I remember it happening, and I thought it was weird because it was just post 9/11, right? And the country was like in a weird state. And then I remember thinking that it was just really stupid that she stole like that stuff. Like why? Like, why were you doing that? Have the money.
I tried to rationalize it.
People know who you are. You're a famous rich person. What the fuck are you stealing from Saks for? I remember thinking like, Has she just lost her mind?
I just thought maybe it was a cry for help, but then, as I got older and then I started looking into the details of this, I'm like, okay, this was not a cry for help. I don't know. I guess maybe this was just for thrill or she's bored. Like you achieved everything at such a young age. I don't know. It's just, you just trying to feel a rush. Yeah.
It's that Animals movie. Remember those kids?
Yes.
They're just like bored with their perfect life. So, I mean, it could be. We'll never know.
Well, we'll never know. In the aftermath of the incident, she ended up taking some time off, brief hiatus.
Did she have a choice? They weren't like, excuse me, Winona, you need a timeout. Go sit in the corner.
She definitely, I'm going to say she didn't have a choice. That's just me. Hollywood definitely was like, we're not fucking with you at this point. Right. You need to go somewhere. We just need you. When no, just take a seat. Take a seat. That's what I feel like they did to her. Which is just, again, it's pretty stupid on her part because her momentum and everything, she either was leading or supporting in like these hit films from a box office perspective. Not saying Alien Resurrection itself was a good movie, but box office wise, it was good. But yeah, she took a break while on probation because it was difficult for her to get insured for other movie projects while she was still on probation for felony charges. So that's another reason why they didn't use her.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because she's just a straight up liability now. Probably cost
no doubt.
Probably cost these studios way more than her salary to get her insured.
Yeah.
The only movies that she appeared in after the incident, they all basically were filmed before her arrest, but they were shelved. Basically, she filmed a few films before the arrest, and then with all the controversy and stuff, even then studios didn't want to take a chance on releasing anything that had her in it, even if she was like a supporting role. So they kind of shelved it for a year or two, and then they
let the smoke clear.
In May of 2002, she was able to host an episode of Saturday Night Live with Moby. But outside of that, she stayed relatively out of the spotlight. Most people will say it wasn't around until 2006 when she started to start making appearances again. I remember when she kind of came back with Black Swan. Did you ever see that? Natalie Portman, Mila Kunis, Darren Aronofsky film?
Yes.
Yeah, she was in there.
Is what? Okay, hold on. Let me get my phone.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, that is her. Yeah, she was in that film.
Sebastian Stan was in that movie?
Yes, he was.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
He was.
I love my Sebastian Stan. Okay, hold on. Yep, it's not ringing a bell. I see her. Putting Winona Ryder and Natalie Portman in the same movie is very confusing.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure she was the dancer. She was the lead swan that Natalie Portman was gunning after.
She was the original Black Swan.
Yeah, and remember she got injured or whatever happened, and then that whole crazy scene, she was just crying. She's like, "I hope you're happy. You got what you want." But yeah, she was in that.
I feel like they look very similar. It's very bizarre.
Well, they do there, and I feel like even when she first emerged in that film, it took me a moment to realize it was her. I don't know if she was still doing prescriptions or if she's just looking a little more gaunt at the time. But they looked similar within that. That's when I first saw her make her comeback, and then she started doing a few other things. I guess a few independent films, but she never really popped back up into the true limelight until Stranger Things, where she played Joyce Byers.
I remember when I watched the first episode of Stranger Things, I was like, shut the fuck up. Winona's back. Look at her.
Well, I was just laughing because I was like, well, this is a very 80s ass show. So why not have a former 80s person in there now playing the mother role? And then it got me thinking, I was like, if we could go back and remake a couple of her films where she's now playing the mother to essentially like a rebooted younger version of whoever's going to take her role, I'd be interested in that.
I'd be here for that.
She came back to fame with that. And then after the first season, there was, I'm not going to say controversy, but there was a slight moment where people thought she was high at an awards show. I don't know if you saw that infamous video.
I watched that live. I remember this. Even on the red carpet, she's like making weird faces and her responses are like delayed or they're too fast. It was just really trippy.
She claims that, she was just being funny. That's their thing. She always makes faces when he talks. And I'm like, I don't know. It was overkill. Again, I just look at her as a socially awkward person. Maybe she's not on anything now. She's just,
Or maybe her brain's already broken from all the things she did before. And this is who she is now.
That too.
But yeah, she did. She looked like she was on drugs. And whether she was or not, I guess it doesn't matter. All that matters is this is her personality now.
Right. I feel like in some ways, there's always a double standard when it comes to Hollywood. I mean, sexism is a thing, but also there truly is a double standard when it comes to actors and actresses and what these motherfuckers can get away with, because don't do crime, folks. And I'm not justifying what she did. What she did in the grand scheme of things compared to what other actors or actresses have done, I felt it was a little minute. I feel like she was punished on a harsher scale in terms of her career. I covered Mel Gibson and what he did. And, you know, Mel Gibson's career kind of rebounded back at a much faster rate, and he got to do more things. You know, you got people like Robert Downey Jr., no disrespect. You know, he made his comeback to Hollywood with Iron Man. But before then, this guy was drug addicts, trying to rob banks, ended up in other people's houses. He got to rebound still at a quicker rate than Winona. Winona stole what she stole. Her career completely stalled out. It's not like she slowly came back and became a leading woman again. That never happened for Winona Ryder. Her shit stalled. She came back as like a ghost of herself. And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
And it sucks because in terms of like, you know, leading ladies or even supporting ladies, Winona Ryder was definitely a box office draw. And in an age where we're no longer making stars or starlets, everything is just known by like the brand of the film. It's a dying age where Sandra Bullock, Charlize Theron, there's very few leading women. We're not going to make more leading women. We're not going to make more leading men. Those that are still on top, it's great that they're able to still be on top. I just feel like she was denied that chance, and she's never going to get back on top.
No. She also has switched now from movies to Netflix streaming series, which is famously popular all over the world. Stranger Things is going to become its own cult classic in its own due time. But I think something to be said for her, too, is that seeing her come back in Stranger Things. And I was thinking, how is she going to do this? Right? Like, how is she going to pull this off? She really did somehow gather all of her fucking abilities, and she killed it.
She killed it. She's
a great character in that show. The scene where she starts looking for Will when she figures out the fucking lights.
Yes.
That scene was pivotal in her really showing that she's still in there somewhere.
Exactly. That's my thing. She's still in there somewhere, because it's like looking back at the bigger picture of her 30-something year career. It's like the incident cost her 5 years of some of her prime years because she was unable to get assured for different films. And that might seem like a short time to some people, but I mean, in retrospect,
not in Hollywood, it's not.
In Hollywood, that's not a short time. Maybe she would have been able to be considered for other major roles that would have added to her legacy of Hollywood had this not happened.
Right.
So with that being said, it seems like her reputation has been damaged too badly now that she's not able to get herself back into the spotlight the way she used to. But I don't know. It seems like she was just going through, for me, the more I think about this situation, I feel like she was just going through potentially maybe a tough time in her life, whatever that tough time was. Because again, she started acting in all of this stuff so young, and she was starting to enter like that true. I mean, she was already an adult, but now she's about to enter her 30s. It's a whole different point of life. Not justifying what she did.
Did she have a little bit of a quarter life crisis?
Yeah. I think she had a little bit going on there. Even for ordinary, everyday people, not unusual for them to act out of their normal character when going through a difficult period in their life. Some of which may not stem from childhood experience and trauma. In certain cases, though, the events of the past can have a dramatic effect on the way we act as adults and how we cope with stressful moments in our lives moving forward.
That's prevalent for my story, too.
Yes, it is. Look at that. We had a similar theme today, right? You know, although it's not uncommon for people to act differently than they normally would in those circumstances, we should still hold those individuals accountable for their actions, regardless of how they feel. Yep. Especially if it involves some form of crime. I mean, come on, people, like you can't let that go by.
Nope.
This is one of the main reasons why we'll continue to bring all of our listeners the details behind these kinds of stories and shed some light on the facts behind some of the most infamous crimes or related to their favorite entertainers.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. Thanks for sharing that one.
No problem.
I'm rooting for her. I'm rooting for her. I always have been. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm rooting for her too. I'm just saying, now for nothing, again, she's on one of the biggest shows in the world, Stranger Things. It's on Netflix. Netflix is out here making it, literally, no exaggeration. They make a new movie every week. I remember when they got the $2 billion loan for that. And certain people, they have their favorites. Like Sandra Bullock's got 2 movies. Charlize Theron's got a few up there. You might as well start putting Winona Ryder in the mix. Now, if Winona doesn't want to do these things, and that's different, if she's not the one stalling it and they're just not giving her more stuff, give this girl stuff. Let's make up that time. Let's see what she can do. We always give the male actors a second,
third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh chance.
I need to start seeing the second chances and a true redemption with the female actresses.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. When you look back at the history of the creative arts, it takes a lot of darkness to create the light the arts bring to the world.
Thanks for joining us this week. And if you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and go over to Apple Podcasts to rate and review.
Please check out our sources listed in the episode notes. They're amazing.
And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram and all of the social platforms at Crime of the Arts Podcast.
We're looking forward to having you back next week. Until next time. Peace out, everybody.
Peace out, everybody.